spoke about the fire engines turning up.
Yeah, that's exciting. We all love fire engines.
We love it, yeah. At least we know that strike has ended. Beth, by the way, was that nerve-wracking doing that?
Yeah, it's high and there are lots of people watching and definitely scary, but we survived, so it's good.
Yeah, it was honest. I mean, genuinely, it was spectacular.
My favourite bit was having a pee off the back of the platform beforehand.
Did you do that?
Wow. Always the best bit.
And actually, if you do, I mentioned out there about the hashtag, if you do go on Twitter and you look at the photos, they look amazing. So it's remarkable. And they say there's no money in telly anymore. Bear, congratulations on the show, it's terrific. Explain first of all then how this differs from Born Survivor, Wild Weekends you did from Channel 4, that kind of thing.
We did 7 seasons of Born Survivor, all around the world. We did some 75 episodes in total. We just filmed a big series for NBC and Discovery called Get Out Alive in America. We do these Wild Weekends and stuff. But I think Escape from Hell, for me, was always going to be special. Just because it's got real people, ordinary people, who through one small error, took a wrong turn or something happened, found themselves, literally in the sort of depths of a nightmare situation, whether it's up a mountain or some jungle or desert. And the show really is me recreating parts of their journey, showing what they did wrong, where it went, left field, what they did right, what they could have done that would have totally changed the situation for them. So showing lots of cool tips along the way. But also, it's very emotional, the show. I think a lot of these survivors have never really spoken about their experiences before. And it's very visceral for them, they confronted life and death up close and some real demons out there. And, by all accounts, many of them should never have got out of there. Yeah. And telling those stories and reliving it, alongside them was powerful.
Yes, because they also tell the stories, and as well as you recreating it, and this is why it's moving, they relive it and explain exactly what happened during the show. Can you just to illustrate, can you give us maybe an example of a couple of stories that have really stood out to you?
All the stories were incredible. We really worked hard to pick the right ones. What was telling is that for every person who got out of there were a raft of people who didn't. But I think a couple that for me really stand out. One was a guy called Eric Lamarck, who's an American pro hockey player who retired, got into extreme sports, became a bit of an adrenaline junkie, got into drugs, and before his life was kind of spiralling down, and he was addicted to crystal meth. He was out snowboarding one day, made a bad decision and got lost. And he ended up, out in the snowy mountains in sub-zero temperatures for 8 days. He then fell in a freezing ice river. He eventually, lost both his feet to frostbite. But he had one kind of real moment where, to survive, he desperately needed to find a way of carrying water. Because once he found the river, he needed to work out to carry it. And all he had was a little bag that he had his crystal meth in when he'd been out snowboarding. And it's a very powerful bit where he physically takes it, empties out the crystal mess, and he knows that it's that really got him into this mess. And he empties it out, and then he uses that thing that had been supplying his drugs to then carry the water and to actually save him. And I think all of these survivors had a real refining experience where life had often got on top of them, or they lost perspective on what they really valued in life, and the situation brought it very raw and very stark. And a lot of them talked a lot about, what drove them on was the desire to mend a relationship, or to see their kids again, or to propose to their girlfriend, or whatever it is. And you see that the fluff of life gets blown away, and what really matters comes to the front. And you see people's faith, grow, and those sort of things are amazing to witness. So his story's cool. There was an amazing guy as well called Mauro Prosperi, who was a marathon runner in the Marathon des Sables in the Sahara. And he basically, he'd run about 4 marathons back to back at the stage he got lost, and he got caught in a sandstorm for 8 hours. And these sandstorms are brutal. If you're in one for 10 minutes, you're broken. Do you know what I mean? They're ferocious. And he was caught in one for 8 hours, and by the time it passed, he was totally disorientated and lost, totally dehydrated, and he ended up, trekking and walking and eventually crawling on his hands and feet for like 8 or 9 days. He reached a point where after about 5 days, he knew he was going to die. And he came across this little rock, like shrine for nomads in the middle of the desert. It was obviously deserted, and he realised he wanted to end his life, but he wanted to die there because he realised his body had the best chance of being found, and he was a policeman back in Italy, and bizarrely he knew that his wife and family wouldn't get his pension if they never found his body, so he wanted to kill himself where he thought his best chance of being found. He slit his wrists and passed out, but he was so dehydrated his blood wouldn't run out, it congealed, and he came to in the morning and he was surrounded by all these bats, and he realised he could get the bats and he could drink their blood and it would rehydrate him, and it gave him new hope. And
is this story real?
The most amazing guy. And he then kept going for another, and eventually, how many days later, he crawls into this Berber tribe village and survives, and hearing the stories were raw and following his journey and reliving actually the emotions of what he felt. He had another mad moment where they were
Madder than that?
We get this.
Sure, this isn't just a dream with the crystal meth guy.
When they were searching for him in a plane, they had a helicopter out and everything. At one point, he heard this aircraft over him. And he takes off everything he's got, his sleep bag, his backpack, all his clothes, everything. And he goes, do I risk it all, set fire on my life to the whole thing, create black plumes of smoke in a do or die last ditch? And he realises, he might as well go for it because he's going to die. So he takes everything, he sets fire to it, billows of black smoke. The plane doesn't spot him. So now he's burnt everything, he's got nothing, So his story is brutal, but what it shows is that he survived really because of his spirit. And it's amazing seeing when people are really pushed, what drives people and what keeps people alive.
I don't quite know what to say. It's the most remarkable story I've ever heard in my life.
Well, don't know Marathon Day style, but we'll do it, but don't get lost.
Let's have a look at the clip. We're going to show you several clips of the programme tonight, and here's the first one. I think you can think of that clip as well, why it's moving in voice as well. Is there a message from the show?
Yeah, I think there are lots of, there are a few messages. I think one is definitely the fortune favours the brave, and you've got to never give up. I think is the big heart of it. But I think a lot of people watch survival shows or watch maybe Born Survivor stuff, and it's always dun dun dun, everything kind of works, and there's an essence of romance and glamour about it because you're seeing somebody do their stuff. But I think the reality of survival is that it hurts. And you're cold, and you're beaten, you're battered, and you're bruised, and you're cut, and maybe you've broken your leg, and you're starving, and you're thirsty, and you're terrified. And I think that's one of the things you really see of just how utterly frightening it is to know that you're alone and nobody's coming to get you, and you've got nothing, and you're miles and miles and miles from anywhere, and you're surrounded by a wilderness like this, and that utter terror is it is very kind of powerful to watch. But one I think the messages is that we're, as humans, we're stronger than we think. And a lot of these guys experience that. We all have our doubts and our struggles with things, and we're a bit like grapes. When you squeeze us, you see what we're made of. And you saw on this show what these guys really are made of, despite the fact that they don't have knowledge about the wilderness or whatever. They had something that drove them on, and the human spirit is strong. Is definitely, I think, one of the lessons. And also, don't get lost.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned.
And if you do find yourself lost in the desert, drink some bats. There you go. What struck me as well is that these guys, some of them obviously have fitness backgrounds. They may have done a bit of survival, to run the Marathon Des Stars. You have to be very fit in the first place. But they've not had your training and your background, and it seems that these extreme circumstances bring out something in people that perhaps they didn't know that they had within them. And also, they at some very difficult moments, they display incredible ingenuity as well, don't they?
Well, so much of survival is about ingenuity and resourcefulness, and it's a part of survival that I've always loved. You've got to come up with quick and fast, resourceful ways of doing things. And one of the survivors had he had an MP3 player, and it wasn't until a few days into his ordeal he realised that actually, if you listen to the radio, you could direct the signal, you could work out where the signal was strongest from, and therefore where the reception tower would be, and therefore the most likely, town and people. What he realised though when he worked it out was that the strongest signal was coming from that way, which had a 9,000 foot sheer ice wall in front of him. So the wild never makes it easy for people. Yeah. But what I quite enjoyed was then showing the things that they could have done that would have totally transformed their journeys. Yeah. And what was interesting is so few of them ever managed to make fire. And again, the reality of lighting fire with nothing is hard. So I love being able to show actually you could have taken the battery out, and he had a bit of chewing gum, and he could have used the paper from the chewing gum and the battery to light a fire, and that would have changed everything for them. So I love that side of it, all the resourceful stuff of it's always been the heart of a survival thing.
Tell us a little bit about how you got into television, just to jump back a little bit. As a kid, did you always want to be on television?
No, all I wanted to do was, I wanted to join the army, and I wanted to climb mountains, and I think if somebody had told me age 7 that I could have a job that involved climbing trees and getting muddy, I would have thought heaven. And in some ways I always feel I've done the sort of Born Survivor stuff since I was about that age. It was just never filmed before. But I've got lucky. There's been a huge amount of luck involved, is the truth. And Discovery approached me after I did a show for Channel 4 on the Foreign Legion, and they said, would I do it? They knew my background, would I do a show where they dropped me in difficult places and I showed them a few tricks along the way. And I was really nervous of doing it at the start, and I remember saying no initially because I thought I don't want to do TV and all my friends will take the mic, and I kept saying no. But and I look back, and I did eventually do it. Shara said, well, listen, why don't you try it once, and if you don't like it, what to say to. And actually never really felt like TV, so it's just jumping off cliffs and chasing snakes around and shooting rapids, and the camera was there, and I look back now and think actually I was so crazy to have said no, because it's been such a huge privilege and so much fun, and we get to done so many cool shows and travel the world and work with amazing
fire station,
totally,
fire.
Work with cool kind of people and stuff.
Do your friends take the mic?
Yeah, ruthlessly. I got a phone call the other day from an old soldier friend who's in Greece on holiday. He said, your voice dubbed into Greek, you sound the most camp person you've and my family are pretty ruthless with me as well.
Imagine some techniques that people of Greece could do with the catering moment. Tell us a bit of all the places that you've had to survive. What has been the harshest? What has been for you the single most difficult?
Well, there have been a lot of hellholes. I've learned that there are an awful lot of unpleasant places around the world. There are a lot of amazing places, but there's some hard places. Everest was life-changing in many ways because 4 people lost their lives up there, and that's a whole different dynamic. And then we've had a lot of expeditions that were quite touch and go. But I think filming-wise, probably one of the worst was the Black Swamps of Sumatra. It's where the tsunami hit in 2001, decimated a big part of the island. It's just a stinking, rotting mess of festering swamp now. Full of man-eating crocs that been living off these 65,000 human corpses since then, and it's just a bad place. And we always get this briefing before we go into these places, and from the search and rescue guys. And one of the advice we got then was, listen, if you've got any cuts or grazes, just give it 24 hours to heal, because this place is rotten and infested, and you'll get something nasty. Now I know we're pretty good, we're ready to go, and we jumped in the helicopter. And I remember we were fast roping in, which is basically where you fly down this rope. And I was whizzing down this thing, and just as I was about to hit the swamp, a bit of the rope just caught my nipple and went lower lip wobble, the smash into the desert, it's all taken a whole chunk of flesh. And I thought, it's a bad way to start the journey. But so that was particularly
got one nipple.
Like Scaramanga. It's good to grow back more or less. More or less. So, no,
let's have another mini scene of the show, which is all the stories are really quite harrowing, and this is the story of one man in the jungle. You filming that yourself?
Yeah, there's a little GoPro there, strapped to the arm. Yeah.
So you are swimming in high velocity water in some rapids, presenting a piece to camera and filming a piece to camera all at the same time.
Well, the hit rate's pretty low in my filming. The camera crew sort of roll their eyes whenever it's down to me to film it, because the hit rate's so bad. But But
It
strainers
must be
are
annoying to
never-
have to go and do it again. You sometimes we get back and look at it and your head's out of shot.
and then we move on. I tell you what, there's never a shortage of strainers in big jungle rivers, and they're definitely one of the dangers there. Yeah.
You look like you were struggling there. Were you
Well,
struggling?
it's always a struggle. I've learned never to get complacent in the wild, and there's certain big red flags always for me. Jungle rivers are one of them because there's hidden dangers. Brown water, massive logs, and these rocks that trap feet, and just a whole lot of nasties. It doesn't matter how big or brave you are. If you get caught in it, you're in a bad situation. Crevasses are another one I'm super aware of, and always give myself bigger margin of error. And the last one is saltwater crocodiles. Those are the ones if I remember we were filming in Northern Australia once, and again, we always get this briefing before we go in, and the guy said to us, listen, we had recently a saltwater attack where these two fishermen were out, and they went to the bank in their boat to get out. First guy clawed his way out this muddy bank. The next guy got out, started clawing his way out, slipped, and as he slipped down to the water, a croc burst out, grabbed him, ripped him into the water. His mate turned around to see this. The croc disappeared. There was like 5 seconds of nothing, and then the croc burst out of the water with the whole bloke in his jaws, and he just went wham like that, so violently the guy's head flew off. Croc disappeared, and it's just a head floating there, And you're going to hear these stories before you drop into these places. I just learned choosing battles, stay away from the water, be smart, and don't get it wrong once, So.
If that happened to you, I'd like to think you'd have still captured it as a piece of camera.
GoPro would have been firmly stuck to me still.
Obviously, as you described there, you do get yourself into genuinely very dangerous situations. You're married, and you have 3 children. I guess you must worry. You must think about that. You must sometimes worry about what you're putting yourself through.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a struggle for me to have obviously I have an amazing family, 3 young boys. I have a job that has an element of danger involved in it. But
Do they worry?
I don't say an awful lot about what, I tend to say it's hot or cold and then we're back into life. But, I think it is my job. It's one of the few things I do well. I have a good sort of, instinct about where the danger comes from. And as I said, you never get complacent. And if there's doubt, there's no doubt. We stop, we'll reassess. There's always another way down something, and you'll only get it wrong once. So you've got to be smart. I think the crew used to say to me that I used to be 120% reckless.
Right.
I'm now about 70%.
Okay.
So it's going in the right direction, and I try and be smart.
What is a typical day in the Bear Grylls household like?
Well, obviously ice bath before breakfast. I slept on a bed of nails and a bag of worms for for a week. I mean, everyone always thinks that must be a nightmare to go on holiday with or whatever, but it's not like that. To be honest, I have enough drama and danger at work. I love getting home and nice hot baths, and it's pretty mellow. I mean, I train hard and we try and eat kind of healthy and stuff, but we have loads of fun and, pretty normal, really.
Yeah, with the emphasis on pretty, I would have thought. But let's have a look at another clip from the show, and this time we're going to go back to jungle. Yes, I mean, they just love their food. They like their frogs. They like their frogs. That's quite handy. Well, he really knew his way around the frog, and that is quite good for you.
Well, I mean, it's not, you wouldn't want to live off it forever, but it's like a lot of survival food is pretty horrible. I mean, that's at the better end of the scale, I suppose.
What is, I imagine this is the sort of question you get asked by kids quite a lot. What's the worst thing you've had to eat?
I do get asked that quite a lot by sort of young scouts and stuff. It's a long list of bad things, from camel intestinal fluids to bear poo to, elephant dung to yak eyeballs, scorpions.
You ate what? Elephant? You ate elephant poo?
Well, it showed how, because their poo is, they're very fast, inside. It will happen pretty quickly, and if you can get it fresh enough, it's actually the juice in it's going to be sterile, almost sterile. So squeezing dung out of it to drink that, and the juice out of the dung. But the worst thing is...
okay, so if you're stranded somewhere and you're thirsty, you happen to come across an elephant, then you can get a piece of juice out of it.
That will hydrate you.
Okay.
It will hydrate you, and it has done on a few occasions and saved people. But the worst was definitely raw goat's testicles, which were, you know, melted into a mouthful of everything you really hope it's not going to melt into. Some journalists once said to me, they go, "Is it a familiar taste for you?" No, it's not a regular thing.
I can see why a journalist might ask that of you. I can sort of roughly see the logic. Do you think, have you ever had a terrible reaction to any of these things?
Generally, and it's generally filmed then as well. You know, I remember once eating a particularly dodgy snake, and but an hour later I was halfway up this climb of this cliff, and I knew everything was heading south very fast, and it was like, this wasn't going to wait for anyone, and I said to Simon, our camera guy, I said outside, just give me 30 seconds, this isn't going to take long. He's like, "Oh, come on, get a move on it." So, you know, turn the camera off, and I was holding like this, one hand and one foot was wedged in the rock, trying to take my trousers down as good as I could. Eventually, and I was doing diarrhea into free air like this. And the other crew underneath going, "Oh." Anyway, I finished, I pulled my trousers up, you know, one hand, belts on, and looked up, and you know, there's a red light blinking. You know. I thought, "Simon, there's nothing sacred." So sometimes it goes wrong, but you know, the idea is the advice is eggs, it could save your life. It might not be pretty, and sometimes it goes wrong because the wild is unpredictable, and that's the nature of it.
What's the most unusual survival technique that you have ever used?
Yeah, again, there've been lots of it, and it's all about that resourcefulness, and you know, I've ended up to do self-enemas on rafts in the middle of the ocean using fetid water full of bird poo, and trying to find a hose and a water bottle and get a thing on my backside, and that was unpleasant. And I remember making a wetsuit out of a seal once, and we were on this little island, freezing.
Sorry, hang on, was it, when you met the seal, was it alive?
No, the seal was dead, and had been dead a long time.
Okay.
And it was a long swing to the mainland.
Wetsuit?
I made more quite a dodgy looking gilet. But it was about a long swim in freezing water to the mainland. I knew I needed something to keep me warm. I saw this. I said to the guys, I said, "I reckon we could skin this and make and it'd be cool." And you know, one of the guys goes, "Oh, ridiculous, stupid idea. The thing's rotten. You can't eat it. Let's move."
I said, "Just like a mermaid.
Let me have a go at this." And I was going to more point of principle. I want to show you this could work. The seal it was a bit of a tight, snug fit, but it actually worked a treat. You know, I had thick blubber all the way here, and you know, little sort of hairs poking out everywhere, and kept my core really warm, and it was perfect. But I love that side of it. You know, working out that you could sleep inside a camel carcass, and.
Well, if you're in the wrong part of the world, you're in danger of being clubbed to death. I mean, that could have been. That could have really gone wrong. Let's have a look at another clip from Escape from Hell. And that really kind of works psychologically, kind of just connecting yourself in your head one way or another to your loved ones back home. That really can make a difference in those situations.
Well, it's all about what keeps you going, keeps you moving. And, you know, we all have different stuff that drives us, you know, whether it's your family, your children, your friends, or your faith, you know, whatever it is. And it is, you know, the heart of a great survivor. It's not about knowledge, you know, because most of the people didn't have any knowledge.
Yeah.
You know, knowledge makes the journey easier, but actually the heart of it is all about that fire inside, that do or die attitude. You will never give up, whatever the pain and whatever the hardship. And you know that's it in a nutshell. You know, I definitely noticed with all these survivors there were certain traits though that ran through them all. You know, and I think one of them was optimism, and they were positive, even though they had the low times. That they were always kind of positive through it all. I think cheerfulness in adversity is another huge one, and it was a huge thing for me. Was, you know, in big expeditions in the military, this quality was always driven into us about cheerfulness in adversity. And it's easy to be cheerful when everything's swinging your way, but you learn about people when you're cold and when you're hungry, and it's harder then. But it is at the heart of a good survivor, along with a sense of humour. Actually, you know, we kind of underestimate that, but. You know, sense of humour is so important. The reason it's important in a survival situation is that no plan ever goes to plan. And, you know, what do they say? That no plan survives first contact with the enemy. You know, I love that Mike Tyson quote. He says that everyone has a strategy about how to fight me until I punch him in the face. And it's true, you know, you hit the wire, and suddenly you've broken your leg, and you've lost your gear, and you're 30 love down, and bam, and now you've got to deal with it.
And the point you made there, I think, is the most amazing thing about the series for me, is that a lot of these people aren't survivors, and yet these circumstances bring out these survival instincts. And I find that fascinating. And my God, that man can write a lot on a hat. Let's meet one of the stars of one of the episodes, one of the survivors. We're going to bring a guy called Sebastian on stage. What did you tell us before we meet him a bit about Sebastian?
Well, he's in this first episode in the snow. He's an amazing. I'm not going to spoil it, so I'll let him tell it. But he's, for somebody, I look at this story with total respect, total admiration, and he went through hell and he escaped. So Sebastian.
Yeah, Sebastian. Take center stage. Welcome, Sebastian. Good to see you. Tell us, so why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and tell us a bit about your story.
Well, just for the record, I just want to let you guys know that I'm French and I never ate a frog. So that doesn't sound appealing. I'm a banker for the last 13 years, and I went snowboarding, at this time, and I got caught in an avalanche, and all of a sudden, you don't know what's going on, you don't really see what's happening, and then, I fell off a cliff that, I think that one was probably 45, 50 feet. And I remember when I fell, lucky for me there was enough powder, I didn't know where up, down was because I was underneath the snow. So I remember that point, you don't really, I guess you don't think about that stuff until you're actually in that situation, like what to do. So first
that's
thing
what I was saying a moment ago, yeah.
I thought about gravity. I said, if I spit down and, I don't see it go down, that means probably I should be going the other way, right? So, and that's how I came out of my avalanche, for that first day.
Okay, let's have a look. We'll talk about. Let's have a look at a clip from this episode of Escape from Hell. And that was day 3.
That was the third day. Yeah.
Looking at day 3 there.
Yeah.
And so you made that leap, the bear recreated.
I was actually stuck on the edge of a mountain. And I remember going there first, looking at the site, and I was like, okay, well, obviously it's clear, I can't jump here, this is suicidal. So I started walking around, but I didn't have much choice because everywhere else is more dangerous. And then I was trying to calculate, is quite different. Do you guys want me to show you how I did it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Basically, I had to come down and I had maybe this much room to put my feet like this. And I'm going towards this lovely lady with the white shirt. Could you stand up, please? Okay. Yes, thank you. Thank you. And I got to go all the way there, and the tree's kind of 50 feet down. It's probably 70 feet, 90 feet cliff. I didn't have measuring tape, unfortunately. And I had to go there, and I remember the sun's going down. And I said, I don't have a lot of time to think about it, but I'm thinking, are you stupid? Are you crazy? We're not doing this. And I'm like, well, you have no choice. We're going to stay here or die. So I remember I said, all right. And mind you, I'm in my snowboard suit. I don't have rock climbing gear. And I, 1, 2, 3. Grab the first branch, breaks, and then bear hug. I go for it.
You thought he was going to leap like that.
Catch me, right?
She was thrilled by it.
She was there. She saw the whole thing.
Right. So that is the kind of distance, right? So if you don't make a tree, you die.
Exactly.
And what are you thinking as you make the leap?
I was thinking that, at first I thought I can't be doing this. This is crazy, I'm going to die. And then at the point, after 5 minutes, because I didn't have much time, at this point I lost 20, 25 pounds. I'm very weak and I'm purely on adrenaline, right? So I just said, what am I going to do? Stay here and die, or try doing something, and live? So.
And to pick up on what we talked about earlier, these moments, these intense moments when you're potentially getting staring death in the face to some extent.
Yeah.
Does that kind of pressure bring out in you a survival instinct and an ingenuity that maybe you didn't know you had?
Absolutely. You never really know how strong you are until being strong is the only choice you have, right? I never really doubted my athletic ability because my physique, I train a lot, I'm very athletic. I do mountain bike, I rock climb, I snowboard. But come on, 72 hours on a Stairmaster, no food, no sleep, no water. It's just insane, So I remember the second night, I'm in the backcountry, there's no lights, and I remember I saw that the sky cleared up, and I saw the most amazing, like, stars and everything. I don't know if I was hallucinating because I'm in hypothermia mode, it's really cold. And just, this is what I'm doing, you know, just to keep warm. And I remember just going up, looking at the sun, like, oh, it's so nice. I wish I had a beer and sleeping bag and just look, but I couldn't look up. I had to look down because just lifting your neck was hard, right? Yeah. I mean, even just yelling, you know, at one point you want to yell, right? But I couldn't yell because it uses energy. I'm like, help, you know. It's very excruciating. Very excruciating.
What was it like for you to recreate?
Well, it's just a privilege to, you know, spend some time with Sebastian and, you know, hear his story, and, you know, it just brings it so to life.
Yeah.
And I think what's powerful is hearing you say, actually the reality is that it's very unromantic and unglamorous, and it's just frightening, you know. You know, if anyone, however fit or strong you are, 72 hours on a Stairmaster with no water and no food and minus whatever, whoever you are, you're going to be a broken man, and then it requires something else to keep you going. And what Sebastian has and these other guys have is that something inside, and that's always the power.
Were you frightened most of the time?
I wasn't scared because I'm in my element. I love nature. But on the third day, I was, you know, I remember I said some of the people, I said Discovery, I said I had this song, you know, The Doors, this is the end. You know, and it was the third day, and like these guys say, you do have, it's so funny, you know, your whole life flashes in front of you in about like a fraction of a second. And I remember,
is that actually true?
It's true.
No, really
I was thinking of my
So you got to a point where you thought you were going to die?
Absolutely, I was dying.
And your whole life flashed before you, and you said it to the soundtrack of The Doors.
Yeah, because
I got highlight jacket. Yeah, good.
Well, the story behind that, not a lot of people know that is, not only I was, you know, suffering physically, because, you know, the cold weather, no sleep, the cuts and bruise, I lost my best friend that day, right? So I was mentally suffering. And he loved The Doors. And maybe that's how we made the connection, right? But I remember thinking, you know, the niece, my friends, and I'm like, who's going to be there? You know, like, my nieces are only 5 years old, 33 years old. Who's going to be there that, like, you know, keep an eye on them when they have boyfriends, and he's no good, he's good, you know, like, so I had, like, because on the second day, I couldn't even move my neck, I couldn't barely move because I was tired, and I remember I had a kick of an adrenaline, like, you know, just like, somebody gave me speeds or something, and I was just like, all right, I'm not staying here. I'm not dying on this mountain. And I said, let's go. I strapped on my board, and I went down until I got into base jumping. And then I got equipment. And so, yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Sebastian. What a remarkable story. So, Ben, that's the first episode of the series. Okay, great, perfect. What we're going to do is take some questions from you guys as well. So we might need to move the lights up a little bit. So we have. Say again? We've got time for 3 questions. Thank you, James. We have time for 3 questions. Yes, gentleman there with the glasses. There's a person sprinting towards you right now. Thank you. Hi, just tell us your name and tell us your question.
Hi Ben, Simon from Hello Magazine. I'm just wondering, most dads when they go away, they bring back a stick of rock for their kids, or a baseball cap, or a t-shirt, or a postcard. What the hell do your kids get when you come home? And your wife as well.
I don't know, I always actually get one of those little souvenir egg cups, you know, the ones that saying I've been to Acapulco. So they have shelves of these quite weird sort of jungles and mountain ranges around the world. So that's what, do you know, the best thing, my favourite thing is we all get in the bath together. That's the real present. And it's a present for me, really, and it's heaven. All 3 boys in the bath. This. It's a big bath. That's nice.
What magazine do you read when you're in the bath?
Squash. And reading Hello Magazine is an amazing
Yes, gentleman there, young gentleman there. We shall get a radio microphone to you. There's a lady strolling down towards you. Tell us your name as well, please. Thanks. Yeah, gentleman there, second in.
Hi, I'm Jags and I'm a scout.
Hey.
I'd like to ask, is there a place that you haven't been to?
Yeah, lots. I think one of the lessons I've learned over all of these journeys is that the world is a big place. It's much bigger actually than people make out. You know, we always hear the world's so small and nothing's wild any longer.
Where haven't you been?
And trust me, the world is wild, and there are many places where, you know, I've been where you're literally hundreds and hundreds of miles from the nearest person. And that's always a privilege. So don't forget the world's amazing, and go and explore and go and build some good adventures.
Okay, great, okay. Thank you very much indeed, and we'll take, yes, definitely. We should get a microphone.
Hey buddy.
Hey, here we go. He was on the front row for the abseil when we set Banty Power Station on fire.
What's your name?
He was right there. What's your name?
Harvey.
Hi, Harvey.
What's the favourite place that you've been to?
Sebastian, what's your favourite place?
Strangely enough, I love being on the mountains. So I just think it's majestic. Makes you think how small you are. But I mean, there's so many places in the world that are beautiful.
What is the one, Beth, that you would
Well,
think
I'll tell you what I've learned,
beautiful?
Harvey, okay? I've learned this. The world is amazing, and there's some incredible adventures. You've got to go out there and grab life and live a body and go for those things. But I've also learned the value of home. And a lot of the lessons from all of these stories is that some of these guys are snowboarders or climbers or whatever, and they're always out there pushing the boundaries. But when push came to shove, and they were really facing death in the face, what kept them going was home. And I've learned that, the value of the, you know, the people you love, and that's really the valuable stuff in life. Is that your mum? Don't forget your mum.
Harvey, did you Harvey, did you enjoy watching the show tonight? Really? Would you like to do some of this sort of stuff, some of the adventures that bag goes? You know, your mum is saying, no, it's never happening. Harvey, thank you. So we've got a couple more questions. We have got room for a couple more questions. Yeah, gentleman there, we'll whip the microphone around to you. Again, tell us your name, please, as well. Thank you.
Hi, so Jack John, I'm here on behalf of Dorothy Dalton.
Yes, Joel, Journey of a Lifetime,
Thank you.
amazing charity.
What makes you take these risks when you have a family and a wife and kids at home?
Yeah, as I said, I try, it's my work, and I try and not look at it as just pure risk. I look at it as always a journey to get home safely. And the moments we celebrate as a team are never, you know, a good trip for us is when there's been no drama, no danger, well, not danger, but no drama, no near scrapes, no parachute malfunctions, no snake bites. You know, we get out of there in one piece, we've looked after each other, and all's gone good. So we like the no drama ones. But it's, you know, it's one of the few things, as I said, I can do okay and I love. And yeah. Right.
Thank you very much. Nice question. Thank you. And we'll find someone else with the questions before. Hola. There's a hand right at the back there. A microphone right at the back of the room. Was there a question at the front? Did you have your hand up, sir? Did you have your hand up? You did. Okay. If you just quickly give up into that chap there, then we'll come to you next. If that's all right. Tell us your name.
Yeah, my name's Charlie, and on behalf of the Wide Horizons, which is a charity that takes kids from inner city London up to North Wales and rural bits, I always think sometimes people, one of the things about the opportunities actually within Britain. You know, I think sometimes people think they have to go so far to get adventure, but actually, you know, there is adventure in Britain on our doorstep, in North Wales, in Scotland.
You bet. You bet. You know, we live in an amazing country, and what's so powerful about scouting is that this country is why it's growing so fast, is that kids from tough areas want to be in on the adventure, and they don't have to go across the world to find it. And North Wales is, you know, as a place, it's the love of my life. You know, I love North Wales, so no, you're right. And look, I see all of our Survival Academy team there. I mean, you guys are all living testaments. You take all these kids on amazing adventures.
Are you part of this? Just explain what the Survival Academy is with you there.
Well, we run these survival academies all around the world, but actually, you know, it's about, you know, we run it for parents and kids and for, you know, just the hardcore survival stuff and team building stuff, but it's actually just about empowering people with a lot of the skills they see on the TV, but also about attitudes and about, you know, boosting their confidence and their determination and their pride. And, you know, that's an amazing thing to see, as they'll tell you many amazing stories. But I'm super proud of those academies, and they, you know, they change lives.
And that's a commitment to set your next series in North Wales, is it?
Sharon would love that. I'd like it.
Great, thank you guys. And then we had a question in the back corner over there. Hello there, tell us your name.
Hi there, I'm Philip Taylor here. I really enjoyed watching Man vs. Wild with you and Jake Gyllenhaal, and you shared a snow shell there, and I just wondered if you got that Brokeback Mountain feeling.
fantastic question to end on, of which the simple answer is, what happens on the mountain stays on the mountain.
That's probably a great place to finish it, isn't it?
Yeah.
With that thought, thank you so much. Thank you to David, President of Discovery, who spoke earlier.